Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hope Without Sight with your host, Sailor Cooper, and
this is your co-host, Tyler Evans.
That's right. We're on episode 30, yay! And we're live streaming on Facebook. Wow, we've done 30 episodes since we started. So on this episode, we're featuring a former veteran in the military who was recently discharged. Well, who was discharged. I guess he'll tell us more. And after that, he was incarcerated. And of course, even though he made mistakes, he is helping others in recovery. Please welcome Sean Young. Sean, how you doing?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
Doing well. Welcome. Thank you for being on Hope Without Sight.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you bet. So, get us started. Obviously, you've overcome a lot of challenges in life. You were recently in the military, and then something happened and you were incarcerated. Tell us more about that.
Oh, so man, life is crazy. Life is crazy. One moment you're living life full of purpose, doing things that you're trained to do pretty much your whole life, and then next come purposeless, and you have no guide, no path in life, and that's where I was in my life. I got medically retired from the Army in 2019 for traumatic brain injury. So it's just a lot of concussions, just a bunch of concussions compounded over time. And I got out and I fell into active addiction. I started drinking a lot and testing out with some different drugs, and life became unmanageable really quick, really, really fast. And I got to a point in my active addiction that I was drinking every day. I would go to work and I would come back home, and on the way home, I'd pick up a bottle and drink it and do it all over again next day.
And
life was just rough, you know.
And, wow.
Life was.
So,
go ahead.
Hello? I couldn't hear you. What was that?
Oh no, I thought somebody was going to jump in and
yeah. What started your addiction? Like, what started you to just drink and stuff? Was it a life-altering decision? Retirement?
Well, no. So I kind of have always been an alcoholic since the age of 18. When I first joined the Army.
Okay.
And I come from a history of addicts and alcoholics.
I see.
So my dad and my mom were both alcoholics and addicts, and before them their parents. So I come from a lineage of generational trauma of addiction. And so I kind of picked up the habit along the way and thought I could control it, and thought that, I had it under my thumb. And in reality, it had me under nasty grips, and I could see myself falling into old habits all the time. And I tested out with some harder drugs, and the alcoholic mindset in me said, oh, I don't want to do those because I don't want to get addicted to them. But I was already an alcoholic, and I just couldn't see the signs.
Yeah.
And the fact that I had gotten medically separated from the Army, and I thought I could control it, and I thought this was the way of life, was kind of like ushered in a lot of the more heavier drinking that I did after I got out of the Army. And by December that year, I ended up in jail. I got drunk one night, and I laid hands on a roommate, and police called on me, got charged with, and I was in
charged with
jail.
what?
Assault.
Uh-oh. So
Yep.
you laid hands on a room, so you became like violent because of
Yep.
alcohol?
Alcohol was definitely one of the reasons why I got violent. I also suffer from real bad anger.
Uh-oh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. As a form of my PTSD and the traumatic brain injury. It was harder to regulate those emotions and really understand why I was angry all the time. And so I got violent, and I ended up in jail. I
Oh,
sat
wow.
I sat in jail for 20 days.
Wow.
And while I was in jail, I kind of blamed everybody for my problems. I said, if it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't be an alcoholic. If it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't be an alcoholic. My roommate could have stopped me drinking, but in reality, nobody could have. Um, I, I had to save myself. And there was an old
Right.
man, and there's an old man in jail that sat there, and he looked at me and he said, Viking, because they call me Viking in jail. Because I got a big beard, a big crazy beard. And he said, Viking, you created all the problems in your life. When you realize that and when you accept that, that's the only moment, that is the moment that you're going to be free from all of this. And at first I was like, man, screw him. I was like, I don't know who he thinks he's talking to, but I really sat and I took what he said and I listened to it and I held it to heart. And that day was the day that I felt like the deliverance from addiction, the deliverance from the anger that I had been suffering from practically my whole life, my PTSD, all that stuff. And that was the day that I was released from jail. That was the day my bond got posted. Literally, all I had to do was accept that I had done all these things to my adult life. And so when I got out of jail, I entered into what is called a therapeutic court. So it's almost like a drug court, where you have an offense that is drug related, alcohol related. But in Alaska, there's a veterans program.
Is it court ordered, basically? A court ordered program?
Yes, it's a court ordered program. And so this one was specifically designated for veterans. And I had to go to work to court every week. I had urinalysis every week, but I also was in counseling every week. I did multiple recovery meetings a week, so either A or AA. And I was also in relapse prevention. So I was learning about my relapse cycles and learning about the mental, emotional, and physical signs of relapse, as well as learning about who I was as an individual through this course called moral reconation therapy. And what that is reconation is reconnecting. So bringing a reconnection back to who you are. And that course really saved my life. It made me look at all the bad things that I have done in my life and take accountability for them. And all the bad decisions I've made in my life, take accountability for them, own them, and then move forward. And it helped reintegrate like the decision-making process in my brain, looking at some of the things in life that I thought were bad but were really good for me, and just changing the way that I think. And that course really saved my life. So that was a 9-month program, and I stayed in the program for 9 months, graduated in October 2020 during the pandemic.
Our favorite year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The pandemic did a lot of good for people and a lot of bad for people, but it worked wonders for me. And
In what way?
I was able to focus on myself and not focus on anything else around me. I was able to remove myself because we were on lockdown. So
Right.
I was able to separate myself and sit down with myself and really dig into who I was as an individual and as a human being and what I wanted to give back to the world, that I had taken, You know, I'd taken so much from this world.
Wow.
I had taken more than I was capable of giving back. And so when I graduated out of my program, I said, I want to give back. I don't know how I'm going to give back, but I want to. And I felt like I was just drifting and like floating. And somebody pulled me in and said, hey, you know, take this course. This course will help you. And it's a peer support. And I didn't know what peer support was at all. And so I just kind of took a step of faith, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to see what this is all about. And I took this course, and it ushered me into peer support. So what peer support is it is people who have been in recovery, or parents or family members or friends of people in recovery with lived experience, using their experience as a guiding tool to help others in their path on recovery. And I had to share my story in that class. And when I sat down and I looked at my whole story, I was embarrassed, flat out embarrassed of who I was.
Oh, wow.
I don't blame you. A lot of people have that regret.
Yeah, I was embarrassed.
Yep.
I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, you are a terrible human being. And I've said that to myself my whole life, pretty much. And so it came time to share a story, and my instructor said, okay, you know, who wants to go first? And I was like, I'll do it. And I raised my hand, and I shared my story for an hour. And that was the first time I had ever shared my story, and I shared it in detail. And at the end of it, I felt this just real. I felt like weightless, right? I felt like all the weight had been lifted off my shoulder. I felt like somebody had handed me this key to a door I never knew existed. And all I had to do was walk through it. And I did. And since then, I've gotten back into, I'm not a participant in Veterans Court, but I help participants that are in Veterans Court. I do 2 meetings a week with them. I also am very active on social media. I help people on social media that are suffering from, you know, life events or traumatic events or addiction. I help them get the services that they need, whether it's people that are homeless, you know, finding homeless shelters, whether it's the addict or the alcoholic. I help find their local meeting or find a recovery center for them to look into, or whether it's just providing that friendship that we need, that human connection that we all need.
That's right. It says that in your bio.
There you go.
I'm proud of you that you help others.
Thank you.
And also, so do you have any like resentment? Do you still have resentment what you've done? Do you still have regrets, or have you completely just forgiven yourself?
I've learned to forgive myself because I couldn't move on, and I couldn't begin to help other people if I didn't move on and I didn't forgive myself. And as far as resentments, I've worked past the resentments that I have and that I've had. I mean, since I've been sober and I've been clean, and I've gotten in positions with had resentments, but I've had to let them go, because all they are is going to harbor my next anger fit, right? And I'm not saying like I'm going to go out and go crazy, but like it's going to keep me in an unhealthy position mentally and emotionally and spiritually, and that's not where I need to be. I want to give the best of myself to the world, to a partner, and I can't give the best of me to anybody if I'm not at my best.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you know, Sean, I don't like anger. It does nothing. It only hurts people. And I understand why people are angry, but there's no excuse to continue to be that way. You know, you gotta do something about it. You know, if it's getting help, going to counseling, and just digging deep and talking about your issues, you know, do it. and
Yep.
you've done nothing but just that. And I like how you say you should never blame others. I mean, the way I see it is, yeah, people may have some people may have had a rough upbringing, but they don't need to stay in that same pit, in that same spot. They can pull themselves out if they so choose.
Yep.
That's
I
right.
I actually was talking to a friend of mine today on a recording for my podcast, and um he had said something, and it really stuck with me, and it's the reality that we get to these positions where we feel like we cannot get better, right? Like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we cannot get better because something is always going to bother us. And I can tell you right now in my life, being in the army, being deployed 4 times, watching some of the worst in humanity happen in front of my eyes, and even with the PTSD, all that stuff, I can tell you right now, nothing triggers me. Nothing bothers me to the point where I feel like I have to have an episode. And that's because I've worked so hard to become who I am today. I've worked through the triggers. I've worked
That's
through the
right.
trauma. And I just wish that I wish that everybody could experience that, could experience what it's like to have peace.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because we all
Mhm.
need that in this world, peace. And so I want to go back to the military. Did being in the army cause that trauma? And also, uh, did you do certain tasks that caused the TBI as well?
So I have just about every form of trauma that you could have, with the exception of one or two. I have a lot of childhood trauma. I have a lot of service trauma, service connected trauma, some sexual trauma, some other stuff, compounded traumas, post service trauma, relationship trauma. Like, you name it, I'm a trauma. I'm a trauma bucket. I collect trauma, right? Um, but every individual trauma has something different, something more profound on the back end of it.
Yeah.
And that was really, really rough to come to the realization of some of those things. Like, I've fought through a lot of trauma that actually happened to me very recently, as this past December. And
What was
I'm in
it? If you don't mind sharing.
okay. Um, I'm going through a divorce, and my ex-wife packed up her and the kids and left
Oh,
without warning.
without warning.
There was no anything, and the trauma that happened wasn't her leaving, it was the manner in which she did it.
Did she? I mean, I mean, I don't want to blame you
No.
or anything, but like I know obviously she left for a reason, because she saw everything that you had been through and everything that you were doing. But did she see how you made just a 180 turnaround and improved? Did she even see that and still left, or what?
She did, and this was almost 3 years after I have been sober, right? Um and so, like,
Oh wow.
I found out that it had nothing to do with me. There was somebody else. And so I had to sit there and watch that unfold in front of my eyes. And I had a lot of, like, trauma when it came to abandonment and stuff like that. And that's exactly what it felt like, was being abandoned, being good enough to take care of somebody else's kids, but not good enough to be around. Right. And it was rough. It was hard. And so I worked through a lot of that. And from time to time, I get that feeling of used goods, not from anybody, but just, your brain will tell you things, or that feeling of not being good enough. And so that's something that I work through. And I still go to counseling. I've been in counseling ever since I started my recovery journey. official for me. But the traumatic brain injury thing, I was a paratrooper in the Army for 12 and a half years, so I would jump out of airplanes.
Wow.
That was
That's scary.
yeah, I was
Oh, wow.
terrified. I was terrified of heights. People ask me why would you jump out of airplanes if you're terrified of heights? And $150 is $150, man. Like, you know what I mean? It's a little extra money in the bank. But it's an adrenaline rush too. And I was close to some explosions. A truck that I was in back in 2010 blew up, and so I was in IED. I smacked my head around a few times.
Yeah.
So some occupational hazards there.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. The military can be traumatic, but I do want to thank you for serving in our United States military, and, not to get political or anything here. I mean, everybody each to their own, but I've questioned it with everything, with all what has been going on, but I still believe the United States of America is still the greatest country in the world.
I gotta agree with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you. But thank you for your support.
Yes.
You're welcome.
And I mean, I don't like people who hold grudges, especially if, others can, even though, we're all human, we're not perfect, right? I mean, we've wronged others. If we can show them that we can change, we shouldn't hold those grudges.
Yeah. That was something that I used to pride myself on. Like, how long can I go without talking to you because I'm so angry? And
And
now I don't want to do that.
and you see, and if someone doesn't want to change, that's a different story.
Okay.
But you want, and I do want to ask, I mean, do you believe in Jesus, God? Is that who helped save you?
So my higher power is not the monotheistic version of Jesus or God. I do believe in the Bible. I do believe in something. I don't know what it is. But that's not necessarily what helped pull me through. What helped pull me through was looking at every time that I've tried to get sober and looking and that there was a reason I relapsed, and that reason I relapsed every single time was because I was putting my recovery on somebody else. I was putting my sobriety on somebody else. So if they left or we got into an argument, I had nothing to be sober for. But this time, and it's weird how it happened too, and I wish that like I could play a tape from then till now. But when I first got into court and the judge says, "Why do you think that this time it's going to work?" I said, "Because I have to be sober for myself. If something happens to my family, I will only have myself to be sober for."
Right.
And December, the inconceivable to me happened, and I'm still sober. I'm still clean. I'm still working my program.
And do you still drink today, or are you alcohol free?
I'm alcohol free. I haven't had a drink of alcohol since December 27th, 2019.
Because your problem is, like, I guess, say, a lot of people drink just socially, casually. The drink is fine, but there's those out there who just cannot stop. Are you one of those? If you do try to drink socially, you just can't stop, or what?
I have tried to drink socially and it never works. And I envy. Okay, I don't. Envy is a bad word, but in this, it's a good word. I envy those who can go out and have one or two, and I actually applaud them because I can't. I know that if I were to go out and try and drink socially, I would try. What's social to me is going out and trying to outdrink the bar, and I was never successful. But
Wow.
yeah, but the thing is being in my recovery now, I can be around people who drink and I'm fine. I drink Diet Coke and I'm okay. I'll drink water and I'm okay. I don't have the substance is not my problem anymore. It's my brain. and I know that my brain tells me that it's okay to have one, but if my genetic makeup says that if I have one, I'm going to have two, I'm going to have five, I'm going to have 10, and I won't stop. And so I know for me that my best bet is just not to drink.
I see. I hear. Yeah, it's and if you can avoid it, just do it because it causes problems. And I have a couple of other questions. One, are you that roommate who you assaulted? Has he forgiven you? And is that charge still on your record, or were you able to get it completely expunged?
Okay, so the roommate that I assaulted, him and I have spoken, and he came to him and
That's good.
apologized, and I made amends, and he did. And because of the program that I was working, my record was completely expunged because I did my time. Thank you.
Good job. Good job. You're a hero.
That's good.
You're a hero. It's awesome. It's good. And so you're helping others get sober. And what do your future goals include?
So I'm going to be going to school, going to college in the fall semester to get my master's in counseling and my bachelor's in psychology. I want to be a counselor.
That's good.
I feel like there's a lot of counselors now that lack the life experience that I have, and so I want to give back in that fashion. And I live in a Civil War town. I don't know if you're familiar with or know a lot about the American Civil War, but I live.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I studied it.
Okay, I live just outside of Antietam.
In Virginia?
So I live in West Virginia, but I have friends and family that live in Sharpsburg, which is the town that Antietam happened in, and I want to get associated with the Battlefield Trust, so I can start doing tours, giving tours.
All right.
That's great. That's great. And it's because before that, you're originally from Alaska, right?
No, I grew up in this area actually. Sharpsburg. I grew up here, and then I joined the Army, and I got stationed in Italy, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then Alaska.
Wow. I see. Yeah, but so you're back home. It's good. Well, I'm proud of what you've done. You're only going to continue to inspire the world. Well, other than that, I don't believe I have any more questions for you. So, I mean, well, actually, I would like to be on your podcast. Tell us what is your podcast about?
Okay, so my podcast is called Sitting with Sean. I have 3 separate projects that I'm doing right now. One is called Recover Out Loud, and that is where I talk to people with mental health disorders or substance abuse disorders, or really any kind of adversity in their life that they have had to overcome and go through some form of a recovery process. Second interview style that I have is called Extraordinary, and it's where there's normal people living their normal everyday lives, but they're doing extraordinary stuff with it. They're doing cool.
Wow.
I've had a few authors on. I've had a professional stuntman, like really cool stuff. And then my last one's called Late Night Live with Sean, and it's more like a Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon kind of show where we just have fun. We talk about things that you wouldn't normally talk about and during the daytime, so it's fun.
That's stuff. Great. And so you're free, you feel free, which is great.
Yeah, I'm free, and that feels great to say. I'm free in more than one sense.
Yeah, you're free, and you put all this stuff behind you, and you only want to move forward.
Absolutely. If we're not moving forward, we're getting stuck in the same place.
Yes. Well, I would love to be on your podcast as well. because we have stories to share. And I want to invite you to Podapalooza, which is a great event for podcasters.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you on my show, and I'd love to come to Podapalooza.
Oh yes, and
Oh yeah.
So Tyler, do you have any questions for our guests?
Let's see. So is your podcast like, is it a business for you?
Kind of. I do it more for fun. I do it for the stories, for the experience. But I want at some point I want to monetize it, because time is money.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what we want to do. We want to make money doing it one day.
Yeah. I love hearing the human experience, and I love hearing the triumph story, but I also understand that, podcasting for free is not going to pay the bills.
No.
Nope, it's not.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I put my information in the chat, so please feel free to exchange contacts.
Sounds good.
There you go.
I have it pulled up.
Yeah. And so if nothing else, how about let's do a customary ending, Tyler, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, ball's in your court. Go ahead.
Okay, so what do you say to those who feel they have no hope?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, say there's always hope.
There you go.
What advice would you give?
What advice would I give?
If you don't know where to turn.
I would tell them that that advice is free. You got to put in the work.
Everything takes
there you
work.
go.
There you go. Well, Sean, thanks so much for being on Help Without Sight, sharing your light and how you've overcome challenges. Everybody give it up for Sean Young. Stay blessed.
Thank you.
We hope you feel renewed, inspired, and encouraged, like you can just carry on and conquer the world.
Please hit the subscribe button on all platforms and tell your friends and family to do the same.
Blessings to all.